Right, hello and welcome to another Dauntless development video. Today we're going to be looking at um, UI, and we're going to be starting off a little kind of mini series on focusing on just some UI basics in Unity. So we're going to be starting off today with a menu scene and setting up some menu UI, which will allow us to, load into the game and potentially set up options menus and stuff like that. But we're going to set up the fundamentals, which will just mean you can go from loading in to seeing something and then loading into the game. Okay, so to start off, if you're in a 3D game, you're going to see this kind of view. And when you're working on UI, obviously you're going to be working on a 2D plane. So you want to go over here and you want to click this 2D button, which will change to 2D view. And now, you get to see things from 2D. So when it comes to UI, everything in UI must be placed on a canvas. So the very first thing you must create when you're making UI is a canvas. So we go to the hierarchy, right click, go to UI and canvas. So you can see that that's over here. It's very large. If you're working in a 2D space, like a 2D game, the canvas is completely separate to your world, at least a screen space canvas, something that's the main canvas will always be separate to the world. So it's going to always look a lot bigger. It's might be confusing at first, but just basically think of this as a totally separate thing to the actual game world. So I'm just going to leave this called canvas. And to start out with, just to show, because in the game view, we can't really see anything here because we haven't put anything in the canvas. So I'm going to right click on the canvas, and we do this so that anything we create is created inside the canvas. If we place something outside the canvas, it will never be rendered on the canvas. So we go to UI, and I'm going to just place an image in to start with, and this will be our this will be our background. So now when we go to game view, we can see that we have this square. One thing to note is in game view at the top here, you might have free aspect selected. Now, I would always recommend selecting some kind of widescreen resolution because almost all, well, I guess what I should say is select a resolution that makes sense to the project you're working on. If you're working on an application, maybe like a mobile game that works in portrait, think, I don't know, Flappy Bird, that was a game that was like that. You might want to have the orientation more like this. But typically, if you're working on anything in PC, you're going to want a landscape orientation. The reason you'll want to select this specific aspect ratio is in free aspect, it will just fit to this. And if you have that, your UI will move around as you change the size, and it won't actually be fixed to anything relative. So choosing an aspect ratio that you're going to see when you actually publish the product lets you see exactly how the UI will be laid out. So I'm going to go back into scene view, and I'm going to just fill this whole canvas with this image. I'm going to rename the image to background. And I'm going to change the color here to like a gray. So now if you go in the game view, you see it fills the screen. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to want to probably add some text. So right click UI text. And this will be our kind of game title, perhaps. Now, obviously, you can spice up the layout of this to make it look a lot better. For now, I'm just going to put in some basics that you might want to have. I'm going to choose a font size of about 70, perhaps. One thing to note as well is if you increase the font size and the text disappears, it's because the text box is too small. So you want to resize that until you see the text again. Because this is going to be like a title, I'm going to change the alignment here to center aligned in both vertical and horizontal. And there we go, that looks a lot better. And I'm going to change the text inside here, inside this text component. I'm going to change it to game title. Just, yeah, this would be the title of whatever game. So you can put the title there. And that's just kind of that little bit of text. And we're probably going to want a play button so we can actually get into the game. So I'm going to go to UI, add button. And again, we are right clicking on the canvas directly so that the button is childed to the canvas. I'm going to select button. Now you can select text mesh pro button as well if you want. Same with the text, we could have selected that. It just gives us some more options when it comes to manipulating the text. But to start out with, we probably don't need those. So we'll just use the basic button. I'm going to resize this and place it where I think looks okay. I'm going to just place it at the bottom here. There we go. Now, one thing, I'm going to just change this name to play button. One thing worth noting is right now, these things aren't fixed correctly in position. So you can see right now that this all kind of looks how you'd expect. However, if we change the aspect ratio, you can see that the background has shrank away. If we change that, then things get overridden. That is yet another example. So what's going on here? Well, we haven't set up the anchors correctly for these objects. So the background, we want this to always fill the canvas. So we're going to want to select this here. This is where we create the anchor. So what we're going to do is right now everything is defaulted to center aligned, so center middle. And that means it will always try to stay the same distance from this center point, no matter when the screen size changes, it'll always try to stay the distance it currently is from the center. So if the screen gets bigger, it will stay this distance. If the screen gets smaller, it will still stay this distance from the middle. However, since we've got this placed, since we've got the title, for example, placed kind of near the top, we're going to want this anchored to the top middle. So it's still in the middle from left to right, but it is also to the top. So we want to have this relative to the top of the screen. We also want the background to always fill the canvas. So no matter what the screen size is, it should always fill. So we're going to select this one down here, which says stretch in all directions. And the play button, we're going to choose center bottom. So now, when we resize the screen, so I'm actually going to put this in free aspect just to demonstrate. You can see that things are staying in the middle, but they're staying kind of relative to where they should be, as opposed to just kind of randomly. So there we go. So that makes that now our UI is kind of set out roughly how we want it to be. When you place a button, it will have a text object childed to it automatically. So we can go in here and we can change the text. So I can say play, and I'm gonna just make this bigger. I'm gonna say font size 20, maybe 30. Yeah. And why not make it bold if we can? Can we make it bold? Yeah, bold. And then that says play. There we have it. We have a menu screen. However, I'm just gonna save that. When we hit play, we can click on the button, but currently it doesn't do anything because we haven't actually created any behavior. So on a button, we have this on click. So inside the button component of the button, so this is the button component, we have on click, and this is this uses events the event system in Unity to call a function from any object in the scene, as long as it's public anyway. And you can pass variables as well, just like you would with any other function, but you can add it to this list. So you'll hit the little plus, and then you'll choose the object that you want to run the code from. Now, we currently don't have the code, so we can't do that yet. So first, we're going to need to make a script. So right-click, C# script, and I'm going to just call this menu script. Let's open this up. There we go. So in the menu script, what we're going to do is we're going to need to have something, because this is the play button, so the play button will load us into the game. So in order to load another scene in Unity, we need to say at the top here, we need to say using Unity engine .scene management. And that allows us to use the scene management features where we manage scenes, because like levels in Unity are called scenes, if you don't know that. So I'm going to make a public function, and for now, actually, I'm just going to get rid of this start and update because we're not going to use them. I'm going to make a public void load game, or maybe not load game, maybe call it play game. And all this is going to do is this going to say scene management, scene manager dot load scene. Sorry, scene manager dot load scene, and I'm going to say 1. Now, what this means is it's going to use the scene manager and it's going to load scene 1. So each scene is numbered. Now we handle what number each scene is. So we'll need to make sure that the game scene that we're loading is scene 1. So I'm going to quickly go into here and go back to the button. And on this component, first I need to attach this script to something. So I'm going to just attach it to the canvas. So in here, I'm going to go into scene, I'm going to select canvas. Then from this drop down menu, so I could just drag this canvas in, by the way, that's another option. So from the drop down menu where it says no function, you can see that we have menu script here. So in here, we should be able to find play game. Oops. Play game, yeah. So when we select that, now when we hit that button, it will call that function. However, we need to make sure that we've set this up correctly. In order to do that, we need to go into our build settings. So here you can see scenes in build, and there are none. Now, there's 2 ways you can add the scenes to this list. You can say add open scenes, which will just add the ones that are open. So in this case, it'll add the menu. So, or the other is you can drag them in like this. So I'm going to drag that one in, and then I'm going to drag in the scene we're going to use for the game. So you'll see here that scene menu is 0, and this scene is 1. So that's the scene we're going to load, which is scene 1. Now, you can drag these around and reorder them. However, obviously, we've set up this button to load scene 1. So now, and you can just close this window when you've done it. You don't need to hit save or anything. So now when we hit play, and then we hit play, we load into the game scene, where I've just set this up just as a little test scene. So you can see we'll load into here, and then obviously when we go back in, we can do it again. So that was just setting up a menu, just a very basic menu. Obviously from here you could add more buttons, to do more things. Maybe you could load a different scene which has instructions. Maybe you could load a different scene which has options. But yeah, that's all for today. You could do this with pop-ups, like controls and instructions and stuff like that. But that we will cover in a later video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.